So welcome to today's webinar, everyone. Today's webinar is Leadershift, Essential Changes to Shift Your Leadership Higher. My name is Daniela Labate-Cavelli, and I work at NIAPRS. I'm the Director of Managed Care Initiatives. I also help coordinate all of our NIAPRS webinars. So before I introduce Lynetta, we just have a couple of quick housekeeping things to review with everyone. Today's webinar is being recorded, and you'll be able to find the recording as well as the PowerPoint on the NIAPRS website within a couple of days of today's webinar, and that's at www.niaprs.org. We are offering CEs today for LMSW, LCSW, CPRP, LMHCs, and LMHCs, yes. So in order to receive those continuing ed credits, we ask that you complete an evaluation. So everyone that is registered for today's event will receive an evaluation via email to the address that you used to register for the webinar, and you'll get that email within 24 hours of today's webinar. We ask that you complete that evaluation and send it back to us within 48 hours in order to receive your CEs. Also, just a quick note, in order to be eligible for CEs, we've got to make sure that you are not only on the phone. You need to be logged in on a device, your computer, laptop, iPad, phone. You need to be on the mobile site and not just calling in. We do want this to be a dynamic webinar presentation today, so we're going to rely on you to use the chat box, and I see that you already are very good at that, so we hope you'll keep that up. Use the chat box to communicate with us and chat to all panelists, if you would, so that we can keep track of that. Lynetta has set aside some time at the end of the presentation for Q&A. She's also got some chat box questions for you throughout, so please feel free to use the chat box. I'll be monitoring that while she's presenting, and then we'll do Q&A at the end. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Lynetta Albright to everyone. Lynetta is an author, a radio personality, a change agent, and a facilitator. She's one of the most dynamic and transformational speakers, facilitators, and coaches, and works both nationally and internationally. Lynetta is an executive director of the John Maxwell team, and she's certified to facilitate, speak, train, and coach individuals and groups in the areas of leadership development, professional skills, and personal growth. She's trained and mentored by John Maxwell himself and members of his world-class faculty, and she comes equipped with the tools, resources, and experiences to help you and your team improve your productivity, performance, and profitability. She's also a friend of NIAPRS, and so we're very pleased to have her with us today. So please welcome Lynetta Albright.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's pretty exciting to be here. You know, COVID keeps us from being in the room together. We'll get back to that, I'm sure, soon, hopefully. But for now, these virtual rooms have really offered us an opportunity to continue our growth, to continue connecting with each other. So I'm really excited to be here. You may have gotten my bio that tells you what I do. For 17 years, directed the Great Lakes Addiction Technology Transfer Center, the ATTC, in the Midwest. And while there were two things. There were a lot of things that I loved, but there were two things that were really meaningful and fulfilling for me. The first was recovery. And so I spent the last 10 years there focused on recovery and peers and recovery community organizations, and had the honor and privilege to work with Bill White, Arthur Evans, Ijama Achara on the East Coast. I know you know those names. And to be partners with them, to learn from them and learn from people in recovery. So recovery was one of the meaningful things that I did and continue to do. And then there's leadership development. The ATTCs, we started doing these leadership institutes, developing the next generation of leaders for the field. And the leadership piece just stuck with me. And when I took an early retirement from University of Illinois, I thought, and I didn't say out loud that I was going to kick behavioral health to the curb and really get into leadership only, but God had a little bit of a different plan for me. You know, he knew my heart is in recovery, and And with those in recovery, I'm the daughter of a recovering alcoholic. Dad lived the last 30 years of his life in recovery until he was like 94. And so you get the best of two worlds that I live in. There's the behavioral health where I still reside and am grateful that I do, because I get to work with people like those at Niagara's. And so I'm really grateful. And that's one word that describes who I am as much as what I do. So gratitude and forgiveness and spirituality, those are the core. They're what makes me who I am. They give me my why, celebrating recovery and helping people to become the best that they can be. When I was contacted by the Maxwell team, they were building this global team. I was so excited, and I thought, who knew that I would be working with John Maxwell and calling him John? It is, I'm telling you, I'm a grateful woman, and I'm grateful to all of you for being here today. So that's enough about me, because this is all about you. I want to get us started by setting the environment, and one of my intentions, so you know, is to leave time at the end of this. We've got about 80 minutes together. So I'm watching my time so that we can stay together and give you an opportunity to ask questions. So this gives you today's intentions. We're talking about leader shifting, and what does that mean? We're going to understand leadership, but before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about application, the ACT process. Daniela sent you that that tool. So we're going to talk about application. What does it mean to leadership? There are 4 questions. I'm going to want to hear from you all in the chat box on these 4 questions that help you to become a better leader shifter. So you have to be careful with that word. We've got leadership, we've got leadership, and you can imagine if you try to say those words quickly, you can really get yourself in trouble. So we're going to talk about how you can become a better leader shifter. And while the book, and I encourage you to get the book, we're only going to describe 3 of the 11 essential leaderships. John talks about 11 essential leaderships, and we're going to go over 3 of them. Then I want to share with you, because personal growth and professional growth is really a part of what we all do and what we're interested in, or you wouldn't be on this webinar. You know, I'm sure you have been on many Zoom calls and Zoom meetings. And then I decided I'm going to give you a bonus. So I'll tell you about the bonus at the end. What I'd like you to do now, if you can see this, I'd like you to draw these 3 circles on a sheet of paper. So you got 3 circles, a larger circle, then another one, and then the smaller one. And inside of those circles, I want you to write on the outside circle a W, then the next circle an H, and in that small circle, another W. And the question I want to ask you or tell you about, and I'm going to come back to this application slide, is Simon Sinek's golden circle. And his golden circle that you just drew, as you see here, that outer circle is what do you do? That's how we are socialized. We work from the outside in, usually. We figure out what we do, then we figure out how we do it, and we may get to that middle circle, why we do what we do. The work that Simon Sinek's been doing and others in the professional and personal growth arena is really looking at helping us to understand why it's important to go to the middle circle first, that we work from the inside out. What's my purpose? What's my why? Why do I do what I do? And then the what and the how become clearer. I want you to hold that thought for a moment while I go back and do a little bit more on setting the environment for you for today. And it's all about application. I was in a training once with John where he talked about no matter how long or short a presentation is, and I now use this when I'm reading books. He said, you want to think about in the moment, what are you going to do with what you're learning? It's that gap between we know what to do, how do we do it? So you're learning things and you'll be hearing things, and I call it the so what question. So you hear things and you say, great, I like it, I understand it. My next question is, so what? So what are you going to do with it? It's all about application. So this ACT is a process. The document that you got, it's self-explanatory. So essentially what you're doing is coding your notes. So if you're taking notes and you write down, I need to do this, put an A next to that note. Or you hear something or see something or it occurs to you, I need to change, or we need to change the way we're doing assessments. We need to change the way we're doing meetings. Put a C next to that for change. And then if there's something that you hear or learn about today, put a T if you want to teach it or transfer it to other people. And the purpose of it, in addition to getting you to start thinking about so what an application in the moment, is that when you go back 2 or 3 days from now and you've got these notes and you're like, I know I wrote that down somewhere. Well, if you code it, you want to go back and pull out all of your A's, your C's, and your T's. And the second page of that document gives you sort of a strategy for working them across. So you take an A and you write down, what are you going to do? Who are you going to do it with? And how will you know that it's making a difference? So you want to think about application, and you want to always think about so what? That sounds great, but so what? What does that mean to me? So that sort of sets the stage. Application, knowing your why, and self-awareness. That's the third thing we're going to be looking at through all of this leader shifting. And whenever you're growing and learning and influencing then others as a leader, you go first. You can't add value to others until you add value to you first. So self-awareness is a big piece of this. So what I want to do is share with you a video, and this isn't Simon Sinek, but it is another person that in his video, and it's only 4 minutes, some of you may have seen it and may know Michael Jr. And Michael, well, let's see, I shared the wrong thing here. Michael is also in the personal growth and professional growth arena, and he does a phenomenal job that actually saves you from listening to me explain this in 10 more slides. So we're going to listen to Michael, and as you're listening to him and when he's done, I'd like you to put in the chat, what's your why? And Daniela may share a couple of those with me. So let's listen to Michael. And 2 more things on Michael and Simon. If you haven't heard of Simon, YouTube and TED Talks, he has the second in the history of TED Talks. Simon's is the second most watched. His TED Talk on Start With Why. Both of these gentlemen on YouTube, you can find their videos, their books, etc. So I'll shut up and let you listen to Michael Jr.
How do I know? A lot of people, when they think of the phrase, how do I know, they always want to put the what behind it. How do I know what I'm supposed to do? The question that you really should ask is, how do I know why I'm here? Because when you know your why, your what becomes more clear and more impactful. If you know, like for instance, people know that I do comedy, but that's what I do. My why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. So I can do comedy, I can write books, I can be in a movie, because all of it is motivated by my why. In fact, I have a new web series out called Michael Jr. Break Time. We probably just did the 6th episode. It's on YouTube. So every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode on YouTube of Michael Jr. Break Time. What it is it's me. I travel around the country and I do stand-up comedy, in case you didn't know. And in the middle of my comedy set sometime, I'll stop and just talk to my audience. And we've been filming this, and it's pretty cool. So we're in Winston-Salem. I'm going to show you a clip from Winston-Salem. And I'm just talking to this guy in the audience, and he tells me that he's a musical instructor at a school. So I was like, all right, you're a musical instructor. Can you sing? Let me hear you sing a song. So this is what happened at the last episode of Michael Jr.'s Break Time. Check it. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing. You know what I'm saying? All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now, right now I'm found, was blind, but now I see.
Let's go. Now. Okay. Here's what I want you to catch. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what becomes more impactful because you're walking towards or in your purpose.
Wow. All right, so let me stop Michael because he will continue to talk. And I just glanced at the, I just glanced a little bit at the chat. And I'm hoping, I saw a couple of people actually shared what their why is. And I encourage all of you to really take to heart what your why is, what's your purpose, because I'll tell you, when I was with the ATTC and in the training world and the professional development world, we thought you train people and you're going to change behavior, what people do. The fact of the matter is you can't change anybody. You can't change anybody. And so the work that we're doing is not about changing behavior. You want things to change in your organization, with yourself, your families, across your entire life. It really is about changing the way we think. It's about mindset. And so knowing your purpose, knowing why you do what you do, really gets into how we think about things and our ability to shift the way we think about things. So this leader shifting in many ways is shifting how we think about leadership, because these three questions right here. And I wonder, what do you think? And you can put your answers in the chat, but these are reasons why every leader needs to leader shift. Things are going faster. Things are going faster, and the future is coming at us faster. I wonder what you think about these three questions. Do you agree with these questions? And just so you know, we are sending you, Daniela will send you the slides. So you will be able, if you can't answer the questions right now, I hope that you will want to dig more deeply and continue to reflect on your answer and what these statements and these quotes, what do they mean for you? Because we're all unique. We work in different arenas. We live in different arenas. Our worldview, our experiences are different. So I'm hoping that you will take all of this and then make it personal for you. So here's the definition of leadership. For a leader to be able to shift, it really is around your ability, your willingness to change as a leader, to make a leadership change so that your organization and you are able to grow personally. So that's the definition of leadership. How we leadership, these are some ways that John highlights in the book. You know, this first one, learning and unlearning and relearning, I say, and then repeat. You be familiar with the saying, going from good to great. Well, I think in terms of potential. So great can sometimes be the enemy of potential. So you go from good to great, and then you learn new things, and then you repeat it. You also want to value yesterday. What I did yesterday may have worked well, may have worked, and I value that. But I live in today. I showed that video a couple of weeks ago, and I valued that. Today, I wanted to show it again, because after talking to Daniela, I thought that that would resonate for people. And then this thing about leadershiping, relying on speed, more than speed. And yes, the previous slide said things are going faster, the future's coming faster, but you want to think about and thrive on timing. Is it the right time to make that change? And the one that really speaks to me is this next one, the big picture keeps getting bigger. So if the big picture keeps getting bigger, you can see the connection to timing. You don't want to go so fast on the big picture as you see it now, because if it's going to get bigger, timing is going to be important. And you want to live in today, but think about tomorrow. You know, and I know that we don't want to worry about tomorrow, and tomorrow's not guaranteed, and we aren't magicians, but thinking about tomorrow reminds me of when we were younger and we used our imagination. And we used our imagination to think about, who do I want to be when I grow up? We think about tomorrow all the time. We talk about reflection and reflecting on the past, but you can reflect into the future. We do it all the time. If you're trying to figure out what you're going to have for dinner, or what you're going to cook, or if you're in a restaurant, what you're going to order, you're thinking about the future. You're reflecting on the future. If you're not that we're traveling a lot now, but if you're packing and you're going on a trip, you're thinking about, when I would go on a trip, I'm thinking about, what am I going to be doing there? Day 1, day 2, then day 3, I get a break so I can take my swimming suit. So I'm thinking about tomorrow. So you want to think about tomorrow, and a couple of questions for you as you think about your own growth is, where you want to be tomorrow. What do you imagine that looks like? And when you get there, what would it feel like? What do you imagine it would feel like? What would it look like? What would you be doing? Who would be there with you? So you want to think about tomorrow. Now, these 4 questions, when someone asked me this, when I was in the class on becoming a better leader shifter, these questions, and I'll come back to these near the end, and I ask you to really take a look at and consider them, this learning something new, trying something different, finding something better, and seeing something bigger for the first time. The question, the first one, when's the last time you learned something for the first time? Now, this isn't a relearn. This is, when did you learn something for the first time? Or do something different? Not improve something, but when was the last time you did something for the very first time, or found something better for the very first time? So becoming a better leader shifter, leaders kind of go before and see before others. You know, that's one definition we use when we think about the role of a leader. So these questions, I'm hoping you'll think about these, and maybe in the chat, someone might want to share with us, when's the last time you found something better for the first time? Those are interesting questions. You know, they caught me off guard because I kept raising up things that were things that I already knew, but I advanced in my learning, but that wasn't the question. It was, when was the last time I learned something for the first time? So as I mentioned in the book, there are 11 essential shifts. I'm going to cover these 3 today: passion, relational, and the personal development shift, which is my favorite. So when we get to the passion shift, what we're really talking about here is in the work that you do and what you're doing in your life, your vocation. Is it a calling or is it a career? You know, and John has this quote, some people wake up to an alarm, but some of us wake up to a calling. And when you look first at Aristotle's quote here. He says, when our talents and the needs of the world come together, therein lies our vocation. So one of my talents and my desires is to work with the next generation. The older I get, the next generation gets a little bit older. So people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, that's where my heart is, and that's where my calling is. And the needs of the next generation are there. They're there. And so when I look at this column to the right on calling, this is how I know that it's my calling, because it's mainly about others. And it's integrated across my entire life, whether it's those in my family, those colleagues of mine, those who I work with, and it never leaves me. The last one on significance, when you look at career, and there's nothing wrong with the career side, but understanding and becoming self-aware. For you to become self-aware, is what you're doing a career or is it a calling? Is it something you choose or was it chosen for you? This piece with the Maxwell Group and leadership and personal growth and development, this was chosen for me. I chose something else. I was a high school teacher before I got into human services. Also, if it's a career, it's something you can do. But if it's your calling, it's something you must do. And when I think again about the next generation, or when you're thinking about trying to find your calling, there are 3 questions here that you can ask yourself. What makes you sing, cry, or dream about? You know, what fills your heart? You know, for me, the next generation, when they're soaring, when they're doing great things, I get so excited. I promote them, I support them. I walk alongside them. I listen to them. You know, it used to be wisdom and we tell the younger people what to do. Well, that's all changing. So I listen to them. I'm in partnership with them. What breaks my heart is when they don't believe in themselves, their potential, and they don't believe that they can do what it is that they're dreaming about, that they're too young. Or some of the baby boomers I work with. It breaks my heart to hear a baby boomer really feel deeply that they've waited too late, that I'm too old, that I can't do what I've always dreamed of. What lifts my heart when I'm coaching and training and working with people is when people begin to see what one of my clients said. She said, you know, we've always talked about thinking outside the box. She says, but I don't want to think outside the box. I want to smash that box and I'm going to create a whole new box. That lifts my heart. That's how I know that it's my calling, the work that I do with people. It's my calling. And in many ways, a quote, Terry Tempest, I think is her last name. She says, the eyes of the future are looking back at us and they are praying that we'll see beyond our own time. So I take that personal and I say, Lynetta, the eyes of the future are looking back at you and they're praying that you'll get over yourself and your desire to be successful, and that you'll think about us and what's significant and what will make a difference for us. So that's the passion shift. This relational shift, now this one, certainly when we are in relationship with people, we care about people, and that's great. How do we expand that from valuing the person to valuing the person's potential? So when you see here, both sides, great. This isn't, you know, a don't do this and do this. Establishing the relationship is great. Expanding, however, the relationship is how we become better. We help others become better. So as the slide says here, I'm going to ask you to pick one of these that you're good at in the care column. And then pick one that you need to work on and use that ACT. So if you decide to take action on weaknesses and strengths, this is really the one, you know, we all have weaknesses and we all have 24 hours in a day. We all have a certain amount of time on this earth, a certain amount of hours in a day. We all get the same hours. If you get a certain amount of time, do you want to spend your time trying to improve your weaknesses, or would it be better if you looked at your strengths and continue to maximize your strengths and grow your strengths? So I'd like you to pick one that you need to work on and see what you come up with. So let's see, where do we go from here? This is my favorite one, and I'm a little bit ahead of schedule, so I'm gonna spend some time here with you, because this is, when I talk about self-awareness, this is all about you, and improving yourself is the first step. Self-awareness is the first step. I heard someone say you can't give what you don't have. You can't give from an empty vessel. So growing yourself comes first. So you first. You know, we have these concepts or things that we were taught that being selfish is a bad thing. Well, there are times when being selfish, not self-absorbed, but selfish, is a good thing. Because when you're selfish and when you're improving yourself, the fact of the matter is you become a gift to those who you love, those who you work with, those who you partner with. So you want to take some time for yourself. And in this particular slide, we begin to talk about growth and goals. And You know, a goal has a timeline. Usually we set a goal, we achieve it, there's a timeline. Or we have a New Year's resolution, we want to do this by this time. There's a timeline. But when you start thinking about growth without a finish line, you go from asking the question, you shift from how long will it take to how far can I go? That's the potential question. That's the growth question. How far can I go? I think about, you know, when you're on a road trip, maybe with the kids or even with yourself, we think about, are we there yet? And how long is it gonna take? And when I stopped asking that question, my siblings, they like to drive. I'm in Chicago. They like to drive to Arkansas to visit our family there. I like to fly and just get where I'm going. They like to drive. So it's a 9-10 hour drive. And I'm thinking, how long is this gonna take? When are we gonna get there? When I started shifting from how long is this gonna take, I started looking around and I started seeing things for the first time, things I hadn't seen. We made that drive year after year, things I had never seen because I was stuck in how long will this take? Things that I heard from them. I was stuck in how long will it take, so I wasn't focused on them. How far can I go is the shift that we want to make, where we go from being goal-oriented to growth-oriented. It's good to set goals. I'm not saying don't set goals. We achieve our goals, focus on status. There's an arrival. The target is an arrival, a deadline, a date. We're goal-oriented. However, I was training a group of peers in Florida, Kentucky. And one of the seasoned peers said his goal was to become an even better peer to mentor the other peers coming up behind him. And my question to him was, okay, that's your goal. Who do you need to be? And he was stumped. He said, nobody's ever asked me that. I said, well, I'm asking. You say that's your goal. Who do you need to be to accomplish that goal? That stayed with him all day long. And at lunchtime, he'd break and we'd talk about it. Who do you need to be? Because when you have a growth-oriented culture or your mindset is around growth, you value achievement when you got a goal, but you value development when you're looking at growth or stretching. You focus on creating an all-new box, like the one young lady said to me, and the target isn't the deadline or the due date, the target is growth. And when you think back to what Michael J.R. said, he said, if you know your why, if you know your purpose, the rest of it comes easier. So who do you need to be to accomplish that goal that you want to set? Once you figure out who you need to be and your purpose, all the goals get easier and they get clearer because it's coming from the inside out. I had a goal. I wanted to retire. I took an early retirement and make my company full-time. And my first business coach asked me this question: who do you need to be an entrepreneur? Who do you need to be? And I kept thinking about that. And I'll tell you the truth, one of the things that came up for me was I need to be more selfish. I need to make sure that I don't forget self-care. I need to listen more. I need to focus and stop thinking I can do everything all at once. I needed to prioritize, manage my priorities, and not be so focused on time management. Who do you need to be is the growth question, no matter the goal. Who do you need to be? So that leads us to the work of Dr. Carol Dweck, who I love her work around mindsets. As I said before, You know, it's not that we're changing behavior, because you can't change anybody's behavior. However, we can work with people and ourselves to shift the way we think. The question that Dr. Dweck asked is my mindset, do I have a fixed mindset or growth mindset? This quote you see here by Debbie Millman, she worked with Dr. Dweck, and she said, when you think about your thinking and how you think guides everything. Everything we do starts with how we think. And Debbie said, if you imagine less, that's what you think, that you cannot do it, less will be what you undoubtedly deserve. And what I share with people is that if you believe you can, if you believe you can, you would be right. If you believe you cannot, guess what? You'd also be right. It's all in what you believe. It's the power of our beliefs is one definition you see here. And when you get a chance, I want you to go back and read this definition, because our beliefs and our thoughts, both conscious and unconscious, impact every aspect of our life. This is a picture of Dr. Dweck's book, one of her books, How We Can Learn to Fulfill Our Potential in our lives, across our lives, parenting, business, school, relationships. And she says here, and I'll read it out loud in case others are on the phone, one of the most basic beliefs we carry about ourselves, self-awareness, people, one of the basic beliefs we carry about ourselves have to do with how we view and inhabit what we consider to be our personality. And this is what her work is built around when we talk about mindsets. So I don't know, Daniela, if there are any questions before I go to explaining the growth and fixed mindset. Are we okay so far?
We have a few comments, no questions yet.
Okay.
And I did just send you a reminder that it is quarter of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna go through, and you can see this better when you get it. But this is Dr. Dweck's work on fixed mindset and growth mindset. And so and I want you to self-identify. And you don't have to confess anything, and don't beat yourself up. No matter where you are, know that you can change your thinking. You change the way you think about things, you change your life. So fixed mindset, people who have a fixed mindset, their desire is to look smart. Their desire, or they believe that intelligence is static. They were a born leader, that leaders cannot be developed. I was a born leader. And I was born with what I'm born with, the cards I've been dealt, and therefore I avoid challenges. A person with a fixed mindset, they avoid challenges because their desire is to look smart. So they avoid challenges, obstacles, they give up easily, and they see effort as fruitless because I know what I know. And so I don't need to put any more effort in trying to get better and best and repeat. I don't do all of that. That's useless because I already know how to do it. Also, people with a fixed mindset ignore useful negative feedback. You know, we have this thing about criticism, but some of it's useful. But a person with a fixed mindset doesn't see it that way. And a person with a fixed mindset doesn't get excited for other people because they get threatened. You know, so you see people that don't want to share information, you know, for fear of I might lose and you might win. Or if I'm the boss, I'm not going to pass on everything because somebody may take my job. Fixed mindset. And as a result, it says here at the bottom, that they plateau early and achieve less than their full potential. Versus people with a growth mindset. Intelligence can be developed. Okay, so your IQ is whatever, but intelligence can be developed. The person with a growth mindset desires to learn, and therefore they embrace challenges, as you see here, and they persist in the face of setbacks. They don't see failure as awful, like we've all been trained, you don't want to fail. Well, the fact of the matter is, my friends, failure is a constant companion to success. Someone said to me, failure is the price we pay for success. A person with a growth mindset is not afraid of failing because they take risks, because there's the potential that they see, or they have an inclination that there's more for them to do. And this thing about effort, they just see the more effort I put into it, the better I get at it. I could tell you horror stories when I first started speaking and training, and just horror stories. But I wanted to put the effort in because it was something I was called to do. It was a calling. I didn't choose it, it chose me. And we learn from criticism. When you have a growth mindset, I look for the criticism. When people are evaluating workshops, I ask, what could I do to make it better? Where did I talk too much? Where did I not listen to you? Where did I use too many PowerPoint slides? I learn from criticism. Growth helps us to do that. And as a result, a person with a growth mindset reaches ever higher levels of achievement. So, I haven't looked at the chat. I'm just going to take a minute, see if Daniela's telling me anything. Jessica, I see great point on failing, and you see it different now. I'm so glad. And I'm not saying that you go home and tell your kids it's okay to get an F. We're not talking about that. But you know what? When we press that issue, fail, 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 you cannot fail. As people grow up and go up, they don't take the risk because they're afraid if I fail, that's the end of the world. I don't want to fail, so therefore I don't take risks, and therefore I don't grow. And a lot of this comes from our worldview, who we are, how we were raised, the things that we held to be true. And they may have been true then, and they may have worked then, but are they working now? So we want to always challenge ourselves and move into this growth mindset if in fact you're going to be leading and influencing others. So for some reason, there we go. This is what a 7th grade girl said. She said, I think intelligence is something you have to work for. This is clearly a growth mindset young lady. She said, it isn't just given to you. You have to work for it. She said, most kids, if they're not sure of the answer, they won't raise their hand. Well, think about us as adults. If we were that way when we were kids, how many times do you have an answer or a question, a perspective that would just clear up everything, that the rest of us would benefit from your question, but you're holding it back. You're afraid to ask the question. She says, but what she usually does is raise her hand, because if she's wrong, then her mistake will be corrected. Or she says, if I raise my hand and say, how would this be solved? Or I don't get this, can you help me? People with a growth mindset ask for help. She said, and just by doing that, I'm increasing my intelligence. So in Carol's book, you see at the bottom of the screen, she has done like tremendous studies, and you'll see some of these stories in her work. So just a few more words on growth and fixed mindset. So a person, those who have a growth mindset, personal success is when we work to become the best we can be. We're not there. We will never be there. because we will always be growing. Those with the fixed mindset, they sort of establish, pure and simple, I've got it. I'm the expert in this area, and being somebody. This is that success. It's either success or significance. Do you want to be successful, or do you want to make a difference? Do you want to have an impact? As leaders, John would say that leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. It's not about your title. It's not about the position you hold. It's about influencing other people, and it's all about others. So this final word here is that mindset is how we interpret. It's the process that we use to interpret things going on around us. So a fixed mindset is constantly judging and evaluating. A fixed mindset, judging and evaluating, where a growth mindset has this appetite for learning, and how do you metabolize your learning, which is why I really encourage people that ACT process, constructive action. You're learning, how do you use your strengths to metabolize your learning? And that's fixed and growth mindset, Dr. Dweck's work. And it's about almost 1 o'clock. So I'd like to hear in the chat if you see any comments, Daniela. I want to see if any of you can tell us, when was the last time you learned something for the first time, or did something for the first time, or found something better, or saw something bigger? I want to give you a moment. When we're in a half-day workshop, I break people into breakout rooms, and we go into small groups, and people have a chance to discuss their thinking and their reflections around these questions. Danielle, I wonder if anybody's answered any one of these questions in the chat box.
We do have some answers. Actually, the first time you showed this slide, the first person responded, said, I learned something new today, but they didn't say what it was. But at least we got that information from them.
Yeah. What else? Anything else?
Yep. Today, seeing failure is a process. So that was something that they learned from you today. Oh, we got a couple just came in.
Great.
Learn to utilize Zoom in presenting and training. Awesome.
That is awesome. It's going to be part of our world, I'm telling you. As leaders and influencing others, this virtual world, which I've always loved, is here to stay. What else you got, Daniela?
So this one is amazing. This person wrote in, I am 82 years old, working full-time, and I learn things every day.
See, okay, I don't know if it's male or female. If you're female, you're my girl. I'm telling you the truth. The baby boomers who are beginning to, the more, whoever you are, the more we speak out and share ourselves. And we don't, as the 7th grader said, don't hold it back, because I'm telling you, we each have a purpose. And if you don't share it, we lose out. The rest of us lose out if she had or he had not shared that. The rest of the people, I have people in their 40s and 50s that look at me now and say, okay, I used to think that I waited too late, and look what you're doing. Look what you're saying. Look what you're believing, that you still have potential and you're still growing. That is spectacular. That is wonderful. What else, Daniela? Anything else?
We do. We have a few more. This other person said, at age 55, I went back to graduate school and became a teacher. I learned how to clean my windows more easily on Monday. Another person said, don't be afraid of change. COVID taught me that.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead, Danielle. I'm sorry.
Yep, got a couple more. I'm a facilitator naturally, but I had to teach my team how to facilitate and construct their own presentations. And I had to learn how to let go of control and learn how to lead them through steps of the process. So giving up control a little bit.
Yes, yes.
Learning patience and empathy through the lens of the pandemic. That's a big one. Somebody actually put in the chat box, I learned something new today about mindset. So that's awesome.
That's wonderful. That's
and
wonderful.
Not being afraid to share their knowledge with other people.
And your knowledge and your perspective and your feelings. Again, when people are considering change and looking to shift, it starts in the heart. Starts in the heart. So how we feel about things is important. You know, the knowledge and the intelligence, yes, but helping people to change the way they think, we have to share how we feel. So that means sharing our perspectives. This COVID piece, whoever mentioned COVID, you are so right. You know, I do a mastermind group called How Do We Turn Adversity, and COVID being the adversity, how do we turn that into advantage? How do we turn that into advantage? And how we think about it, how we talk about it, how we feel about it. When I started seeing the time at home, because I was traveling all over and I love to travel. So rather than thinking, okay, I'm not going to get to travel, I started seeing the time as a gift. And so COVID has some advantages. Certainly there are loss and sadness, suffering, so much that we could live in that place. As a leader, and as we're shifting as leaders in that place, we find a way, and we have to do it with ourselves first, to harvest the good. You know, there's awful stuff in COVID. There's awful stuff going on in the country. There's awful stuff with the racial unrest and the violence and the election, awful stuff. But how do we harvest the good? How do we, as leaders, find the good so that that quote, that future generation is asking us to get over ourselves, to look beyond the challenges that we have right now, to look beyond those and to really focus in on the future, on them. And so, you know, it speaks to legacy, but in more ways than that, it also speaks to the young folk who used to work for me. They said, you know, I don't know if the directors on the ATTC, many of them are not retiring, and we sort of, when do we get our chance? And I kept thinking about that. And I said, you know what, you get your chance now. You don't have to wait for me to go. And I don't have to hold on to this leadership thing, this growth, this power, so to speak. What I can do is move over and share it with you right now while I'm here with you. You don't have to wait for me to go. I don't have to wait until I retire to start working with you and developing with you, because I learn from them as they learned from me. You know, so how do we harvest the good? The big picture, as I said early on, the big picture keeps getting bigger. The big picture keeps getting bigger, which requires us to shift. The big picture used to be cultural competence. And so we would translate everything into Spanish, and cultural competence was the big picture. The big picture now that has gotten even bigger, number one is looking at human competence, number one. Number two, we're looking at diversity and inclusion. And so that picture gets bigger. And it is just amazing to me what these questions, whether I've done it or not, if I haven't tried something new or different, for the first time. Now I'm always looking to try something new. So now I go, because now I'm into potential and I'm into growth. When is the last time you found something better? Well, I don't know. Let me think about that. And even if I can't, I'm getting ready to look for something better. So those are the questions I want to leave with. Daniela, anything else you noticed before I talk about the bonus that I wanted to bring to your group here?
Just a lot. Actually, we have some similar comments all around COVID, the election, and of course, takeaways from your presentation today.
Great. No questions?
Not yet.
Okay. So maybe you all will have some questions when I show you the bonus, because I did this work for a group in Florida, and they wanted, after the short webinar, the convener, the person that brought me in, wanted people to walk away with a tool and to begin to develop their leadership growth plan. So just yesterday, I sent to Danielle, I said, I got a bonus. I'm going to do this for the group. So if you choose to, when you want to take some of what we've been talking about, work with some of the questions, and develop your own leadership plan, what Daniela is going to send to you. Okay, there it is. I'm going to pull it up on the screen, Daniela. So what you have here is more application, ACT. So this is also going to help you. So this leadership growth plan is a 3-step process, you know, and you'll see in that opening paragraph, forward movement, my company, and I believe, so what? So what? You've got to ask yourself, so what am I going to do with all of this? Okay, so what? I've changed my thinking about failure. Okay, I've changed my thinking about it. So what's the action that you're going to take with that? Whoever went back to grad school at 50, 55, what are you going to do with that? So this is designed to get you thinking about, because we should all have a growth plan. We should all have a growth plan. I do, and I do them regularly, because it's not so much goals and resolutions, it's about growth, and it's about me becoming more self-aware. So to get this started, there is a free assessment at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm telling you it, Dr. Daniel Seligman, some of you may know of him, positive psychology, and they have the Institute of Positive Psychology there at the university. On his site, they created what's called Authentic Happiness at the University of Pennsylvania. The link is here for you. So you go to that link, and under Questionnaire Center, you will see lots of assessments. You want to go to the Questionnaire Center, and you want to find this VIA Survey of Character Strengths. It measures, did it stop sharing? Oops.
You know, oh, there we go.
Do you see his
Just took a
website? Is that
second
what
to
you're
load.
looking at?
We see the Penn website. Yeah, it just took a second to load.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I didn't intend to go there. Anyway, when you go there, you see questionnaires, and you will see this VIA Strength Questionnaire is the one. So you want to go to the Questionnaire Center, and I don't know if it will move. And the one under Engagement Questionnaires, go to the one that says VIA Strength Survey, not for children. It's this one, it's the second one, VIA Survey of Character Strengths. You're gonna get 24 strengths. I'm a strength-based person, so everything is about strengths for me, not weaknesses, but it's maximizing our strengths. So you go there, it doesn't cost anything. All you have to do is to create a user and a password. And you see that they have tons. You may see other questionnaires and assessments that you might decide to take. I take the optimism test and the grit survey. But for this process, for this particular tool that I'm sharing with you, let's see if I can get back to it. Bear with me just one moment, and I will pull it up again. Niagara, where is your tool?
Donetta, do you need some help pulling it up? I can pull mine up if you like.
I think I just found it.
Okay.
But thank you, thank you. So I will share, and do you see the growth plan, Daniela?
Yes, ma'am. We got it.
Okay, so step one, you want to go there, create a user and password, take that test, your 24 character strengths you will get. Now, the top 5 that you get, they call your signature strengths. So the first step in this tool, I ask, and you may decide not to use your first 5, but I ask you to put your top 5 here. And then the second column, as you work across, the question is, were you aware that this was a personal strength? And what can you do with this new awareness? So this becomes self-awareness. So you may put here, if your top 5 signature strengths weren't so new to you, but there were some that were new to you, put them in column 1. And now that you've got this new awareness, what can you do with it? Then step 2, you want to answer those questions that we've been talking about. When's the last time I learned something for the first time? You want to go through those 4 questions, and you want to take your time. You want to take your time. There's no right or wrong answer, as you know, because the only answer is your answer. It's what's right for you. And so answer these questions. That's second in the process. And then the third step is you take what you discover in step 1, some new awarenesses, some new strengths. You take what you discover when you go through this reflective sort of inquiring minds want to know when was the last time. Take what you learned there. Take those 2 things, and then for your growth plan, decide one dream or goal. Some people still like goals. I love dream. When I ask people about their dream, their face lights up. When I ask people about a goal, they sort of like, oh, we're going to talk about goals. So decide one dream that you would like to achieve in the next 3 months. And then what are 2 steps? And baby steps count. They don't have to be big steps. What are 2 steps that you're willing to take that'll move you in that direction? Then look at your strengths. And this is where strengths become meaningful and useful. Look at your strengths and decide which of your strengths will help you with those 2 steps. Which of your strengths will help you with those 2 steps? Not only help you with the 2 steps, you also want to think about and anticipate obstacles. What's going to hold you back? You want to think about, reflect into the future. Think about what obstacles would hold you back. And then look at the strengths again. Look at the strengths and how might they help. Also, in addition to the strategy of using your strengths, what people could help you address the obstacles? As the young lady, the 7th grader says, she knew how to ask for help. She saw the value in asking for help. And then number 5, is what are you willing to do to accomplish your dream? I heard someone say, what are you willing to let go of? What are you willing to let go of so you can go up? You know, it's sort of like so you can grow. What are you willing to let go of? So this 3-step process, Daniela has it. She has the slides, and I am going to take that down. Maybe I will pull up, Daniela, so that's the bonus. These are the references. So those are the 2 books. You have those references at the back of your slides. Recovery is contagious. This is how I stay connected to Niagara and the people I work with in Florida and in Kentucky. And I'll tell you something else about leadershifting. For me,
Lynetta, can I just interrupt you real quick? We can't see your slides. If you could go back to those references for a moment, that would be great.
Got it. Okay, so I am going to.
Because I know people were asking about John Maxwell's book, and I'm sure that's on your reference list as well.
It is, and so
Yeah.
where is my stop sharing? So I'm gonna come out of there.
Oh no,
What do you
I
see?
think you've already stopped sharing. We only see you, so I think you've already stopped sharing.
What do you see now?
There we go.
Cool.
All right, recovery is contagious. Okay, perfect. References. Thank you.
Yes. So that's Dr. Maxwell's book. It's on the front cover of the slide presentation too, and Dr. Dweck's book. The other book, 2 books that I will highly recommend, Simon Sinek's first book, Start With Why, and a recent book, 2 other books of Simon's, Leaders Eat Last is one, and then a recent book where he talks about infinite as leadership. So he talks about finite being finite or infinite. So I highly recommend Dr. Maxwell's books for the women on the call and men too. Dr. Valerie Burton, who is a student of Dr. Seligman, is the first person who certified me as a coach, and Valerie Burton, Valorie, Valerie Burton, go to her website. She's also an author, international speaker, coach, and her book on successful women think differently and successful women speak differently. I highly recommend any of Valerie's books. So I wanted to leave that with people. We've got a few minutes, Daniela, for questions, if there are any.
There are. Yep,
Okay.
there are. And somebody actually just chatted in that they're reading that book now. I don't know which book it is, but I'm glad you're reading it. And I wanted to say that the Leaders Eat Last is on my Christmas list this year. So hopefully someone in my family will get it from me.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
All right. So let's get to the questions. One question in particular came in around the 3-step plan, the bonus. The question was, should we do this for our personal, professional life, or both?
Well, it's up to you. And you know, my answer to many things is yes. However, the next answer is it depends. Let me give you my perspective on that. I take that back. This personal and professional, you know, we've been raised that as a professional, this is the way you behave. And as a person, as if somehow Lynetta is somehow a different person in her professional life. So personal growth for me comes first, because that's who I am and I'm growing me. I take that into every area of my life, my professional life. So I come at everything, and that's just my perspective and my belief, because in my personal growth, I get to explore how I'm thinking. I get to also explore my unconscious, the challenges of and commitments and things that I believe, and I get to challenge them. Do I believe it now? You know, it could have been true and it could have served me well, but what do I believe now? So I say start with personal, but that depends on where you are. If you've done a lot of work and you're really self-aware, when you go in and you answer the questions in the assessment, you sort of are either answering the questions as the professional, you will get different answers, likely. You know, so it's sort of, how do you posture yourself, present yourself, think about yourself when you go into that assessment process. I hope that helped. Personal comes first for me because personal is everything.
Okay, awesome. Here's a quick one. Which book title is authored by Valerie? And was the last name Burton?
Yeah, B as in boy, B-U-R-T as in Tom, O-N, and Valerie spelled differently, V-A-L-O-R-I-E. Right. So Valerie Burton's books, and it's a number of them, but Successful Women Speak Differently, and Successful Women Think Differently. She also wrote a recent one that's around potential and growth. So those are those that I've been reading. Hope that helps.
Okay, awesome. Next question. This is not an easy one. How do we truly discover and know our calling for the work we want to do during these difficult times?
Well, I tell people one thing is you don't want to get stuck there thinking, I can't figure out my purpose. I can't figure out my why. These questions here, this chart, we're in this environment, and I guess I'll just share my experience with this COVID environment. And because it's mainly about others and it's something I must do, I had to really think about, go back and work with the virtual world. I had to learn some new things. There's some other streaming things because it's mainly about others. And so looking at my calling, is it any different in COVID? And that may become the question. If it was my calling before COVID, is the question, does my calling change? Does my calling change, or do I leadership? Do I shift? My calling is the same pre-COVID, COVID, and will be the same post-COVID. Now, with things going more quickly and faster and COVID and people can't get out, what do I need to adapt and what do I need to change? But my calling has not changed in COVID. It actually, because it's my calling, and that's one way of looking at it, there were things that I just couldn't give up. I couldn't stop, even though there was COVID, versus there were things that were more career that I could stop because of COVID. And I didn't try to figure out how to adapt, but it's those things that were my calling that are still there, even in COVID, and thinking of how to turn adversity into advantage. Again, how do I look at COVID? Aside from being healthy and following all the guidelines and protecting my family and caring about others, what else when it comes to my calling? So, hope that helped.
Just a couple of questions came in around like the housekeeping stuff. So just to let everyone know real quick, you will not receive the PowerPoint and the recording. Those will be made available along with all of the resources that Lanetta mentioned on the NIAPRA's website. Give our office manager a couple days to put that up, especially considering we have conference this week. So she'll be very busy with that. So please be kind to her. And then the bonus resource, the plan resource, will be emailed to you along with your evaluation, and you'll receive that within the next 24 hours.
Good, good. I'm going back and I'm looking at the chat too, Kristen, who asked about personal or professional or both. Kristen, why don't you try it both ways and see if there's a difference? Kind of evaluate what you come up with. Maybe come at the plan personal first and see where is the cross, the Aristotle's quote that talked about your talents and the needs and where they cross, therein lies your vocation. So Kristen, maybe try both of them. I don't know. It's a test. So, oh, Kristen says she will. Good. Great, Kristen. I saw I could open the chat for myself. Even though I love asking for help, I like asking for help. Is there anything else, Daniela, you would like for me to cover? We've got about 5 minutes, and I know that people appreciate being done early too. We don't have to just hold them on here.
Yeah, there was a comment that someone put in the chat box earlier that I wanted to share. It was, in a world with shrinking attention spans, it becomes challenging for leaders to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And that kind of stuck with me a little bit, so I wanted to share that with everyone.
So say that again.
Yep, hold on 1 second. Speaking of mindsets and shrinking attention spans, here we go. It is, in a world with shrinking attention spans, it becomes challenging for leaders to shift from fixed to growth mindset.
So shift themselves or to work with helping and influencing others to shift?
So I took it as helping and influencing others. I'm not actually sure, and perhaps the person, Ramu, put this in the chat box, so perhaps you could clarify that for us.
Yeah, when I think about shifting mindsets, and what I really think about is the fact that it's necessary, it's in this public library definition, to understand our beliefs that are unconscious. It's those habits, the beliefs that we grew up with, that we hold to be true, and it's in our unconsciousness where we sometimes, when we want to make a shift, there's something in the unconscious that is holding us back. And I'll give you 2 quick examples. I wanted to start my own business, and yet I kept hesitating. And my business coach kept saying, what is it? What is it? I mean, you've done this, you're not afraid of hard work, you've got relationships all over the globe. And we kept working on that. And what occurred to me after several months of working with him was something my father taught us when we were children, and it served me well all my life. He said, you do not give up. You do not leave a job. You do not leave a good job until you have another good job. Well, my own business was a risk. That was holding me in place, that belief. And I had to say, okay, that's what's holding me. And it worked well. It served me well all of my life up to that point. I was never unemployed, but at that point, it was holding me in place. So looking at and working with people around what's really holding them back, and what is it that they believe and hold to be true, and are they willing to challenge those? And that doesn't mean you challenge everything, because some things you really want to keep, but there are some things that are in our unconscious, those implicit, biases. When we talk about bias and unintended biases, all of that is in our worldview. Those are some of the things that this mindset is not as easy as just these charts, you know, what we show. It really is around working with people around the belief, their beliefs, and their beliefs are both conscious and unconscious. I hope that helps.
Yes, and I think there is one question just came in. What are some questions or books that we can read about identifying what is holding us or others back?
I would say, and I'm going to give you authors. Number one, Valerie. I'm going to go to her again because she wrote a book called What's Holding You Back, or What's Really Holding You Back. Simon Sinek. You know, Patrick Lencioni. I'm loving his book and his work. Patrick Lencioni, Simon's work. Maxwell has two of my favorite books. They're older. Intentional Living is one, and the other one that I'm currently doing a mastermind around is called No Limits. No Limits. And so it really talks about potential and the things, and it talks about your capacity and blowing the caps off. So there's the first section of that book, the first 2 chapters is around self-awareness. And there are tremendous questions. Maxwell's all about questions. As a coach, I'm all about questions. And so that one, I think that one just floated to the top of the list in my answer. Was Maxwell's No Limits is the number one, I would say.
All right, awesome. So lots of folks are saying thank you in the chat box. I guess that means it's just about that time because we're heading into the middle of the hour. So I want to say thank you so much, Lynetta. We always love having you at our NIAPers events. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. And thank you to all of our registrants and participants today for a wonderful conversation. We hope to see you again soon. We've got some good stuff planned for December, so be on the lookout for our e-news and for the announcements for those webinars. So
thank you, everybody.
Care, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You want me to stay here with you a minute?
How about you give me a call?
Do I have your number in your signature page?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll call you in 2 minutes. How's that?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm signing off.
Okay, take care.